Hey there, Sam Visnick here, Release Muscle Therapy. In today's product review, what we're going to be looking at is the Bob and Brad's brand of air compression leg massager, so stay tuned. All right, hey there, welcome back. Sam Visnick here, and again, today we're going to be looking at one of these pneumatic compression devices. This is the Bob brand version. I have been a fan of these compressive automation type tools for a long time. I think in the neighborhood of about 12 years ago was the first time I had exposure to it. The company called Normatec had these full-length sleeves that would go all the way up your leg. They were one of the first ones on the market who were actually producing these for athletes in particular. And I used it a lot over the years, but over the years things have changed. They used to be bulky, had like almost a big battery looking unit for it in order to charge it, but these things now have become a little bit more sleek and easier to use and far cheaper to buy. So we're going to be looking at this one today, and in particular some of the facets of it therapeutically can be very valuable. In particular, yes, it can help with athletic recovery, but I also like them for individuals who are dealing with pain issues and or circulation issues. That repetitive pumping motion can be very helpful and therapeutic. So it definitely belongs in the category of home massage tools, and that's why we're going to take a look at this and review it and see how it might be helpful. All right, so let's take a look at what we have inside the box. So we have the air compression box here with just the goods. I already opened everything up. First of all, as usual, we're going to get an instruction manual. Pretty thin on instructions. There's not a whole lot of stuff in here. We got our power cord. We have a bag, presumably to be able to put the device in. And then we have the unit itself. So the unit itself, we have two parts on each leg. We have a thigh cuff and we have the foot and calf area on both sides. The cord, I could tell you right away, I like this. It's got a nice, thick, well-designed cord here, and the base unit here is actually fairly light. And again, I'm familiar with the Normatec, which has essentially something the size that looks like a battery, so it's pretty big and bulky. This thing is small, lightweight, and it's only got a few buttons to manipulate, which makes everything pretty straightforward. So you've got everything you need. It's well designed here. Velcro on the straps on the upper and lower body, so pretty easy to put on and off. So the only thing I don't like, I can tell you right now, I see that the power cord is, as with a lot of units these days, is kind of short. So depending on where you're sitting to the outlet, you're probably going to need an extension cord if you don't have one too close to wherever you're going to be setting up the unit. But let's see here, this should plug pretty much right underneath there. So then we're good to go. So let's give this thing a shot and see how it goes. All right, so let's get it hooked up here. So we just got to do a little bit of untangling of this here. Now, as I mentioned, probably on multiple videos, one of my pet peeves is having a cord that has to be plugged in that is too short. And in this model, unfortunately, I'd say it's a decent length, but even just sitting a little bit away from the outlet, I almost always have to use an extension cord. But this one I feel like probably could be a little bit longer, just a minor nuisance, but just had to give my input on that. So I'm going to detangle this thing a little bit, and this is one thing that is kind of a little bit of a pain, is trying to get this thing all straightened out because there's a lot of moving pieces here. So I'm going to set that here. And we've got two things to put on. One of them is the sleeve for the lower. Now, one thing about this, and they talk about this in the instructions, it doesn't need to be put on super, super tight because it's going to inflate anyway. So we don't need to get carried away with that. This section here is going to go on the thigh. And this is one of the things that I actually like about this two-part system here, which is the challenges with the older models where the length of the sleeve was the entire leg. You know, it was difficult to get the right pressure per area. Okay, so this has the calf part, and in this model I believe it can be isolated from what you're doing up here. You may not even use this one. Okay, so it is an option. Looks like that thing popped off there, so I'm just going to stick this back in there, and there we go. So it's Velcro, so that way we can position it however we like. You can go to the upper thigh, you can go down toward the knee a little bit more. I'm just going to stick this thing right here on the middle, and again, doesn't need to be super tight because it's going to inflate anyway. And this one, I like that I can just slide my foot in right there pretty easy. The old Normatec ones, by comparison, has to be zipped up and so forth, so a little less convenient. And the other problem with that one is I don't like something covering my knees, because then my legs has to be straight at that angle the whole time. If my leg is uncomfortable, oftentimes you have to turn off the unit to be able to move around. But since this is not covering the knee, you're free to move your leg however you want, and that's a nice little benefit. So I like that right away. So, but in terms of ease, there's a lot more flexibility, obviously, in sticking this thing on, which I like. So presto, we're done with that. So this position allows me to sit comfortably in a chair. I don't have to, again, have my legs straight out or use one of those zero gravity chairs or a lazy boy, which is commonly what you have to do with any kind of pneumatic compressor device. So we'll stick the button, turn it on, and we have a couple of different settings here. There is a timer that's automatically set for 15 minutes, and there is a few different modes that we can have. Number one, it defaults right away to the auto, and I can already feel it starting to pump. But if I change the mode, there's a couple of different modes. Number one, I hit this. Mode number one, okay, and that is just focusing predominantly on the foot. So it takes a few moments just to be able to fill up the cuff and just get it moving here. So there you go. And default is intensity level all the way down to the bottom. So if I change the mode, let's see what mode number 2 is. Okay, mode number 2 is more of the Achilles area, which is the lower calf area and the mid calf. So it's going to start pumping that up a little bit more. And then we have mode number 3, and mode number 3 is going to be the thigh. Okay, so we have a couple of different options here. So those are the different modes, and the auto is going to work all of them. So you can emphasize certain ones or just do all of them together and set it on the auto mode, and then it'll default to the timer. So that way you can just turn the thing on and just do the therapy. Now, it does have a heat option here, okay? So we can turn that on, and that'll obviously add some benefit here, make it a little bit more comfortable. You can turn the heat off if you don't want it at all. So I'm just gonna leave that on like that. Now below that, you now have the intensity level. Now here's the thing that I noticed is that on previous types of pneumatic compression devices, some of them are fairly weak. I think this is definitely the case with some of the earlier models, but these things have gotten far more intense these days. So in particular, we're already on just like the lowest level of the intensity on the thigh, and it is already starting to get kind of tight there. So if I crank it up to a level 2, I mean, it's really getting some compression in there. So on a previous model that I have tried on a level 3, if the intensity can be very, very strong. So this is good and bad, right? Because if you like that high intensity level, it will definitely be able to accomplish it for you, especially if you have pretty thick, a lot of muscle in your legs. You're probably going to need a little bit more compression. But obviously it has a good range. It can go from pretty light to pretty aggressive, and I like that it has that flexibility to it. So, but just sitting here, this is pretty comfortable. And again, I'd say the major benefit out of this unit is to be able to flex and extend my leg while it's compressing. So right away, I think about one of the nice applications here is just like other tools, you may or may not have heard of this, these compression wraps, like what we call voodoo wrap or mobility wrap. You can squash the thigh muscles, and then you can apply a repeated movement, almost like getting a blood flow restriction type of effect from that. So obviously it's not tight enough to be dramatic like blood flow restriction, but it's pretty dang comfortable here, and it's tight. So I feel like it's wrapping a good amount. So it has that effect where it pumps, squeezes, and then lets go, and then do that repetitive pumping activity, which is pretty much what we want. So in terms of simplicity, this rating is, I'll give it a high rating for simplicity. You just stick the things on. Once you're preset, I do think you'll always have to every time put the Velcro on, unless you just want to set it at a preset and then slide it up and then the boots. So you can get this thing on and off in just a matter of a few seconds. Turn it on, hit the auto mode, and then just adjust the intensity. And when you're done, you can just stick this thing wherever you want. Hang out, watch television, read a book, do whatever you want to do. And if I need to get up and move, all I have to do is turn the power off, and I can move if I have to go get water or whatever. And that is one of the problems with those full-length sleeves, is you can't. You literally almost have to unzip the whole thing and turn it off. I believe, and again, cost effectiveness, these compression devices used to cost in the neighborhood of about $2,000. So this is a pretty great buy. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a little over $100, and that's as good as it gets in terms of quality. So I like that unit. And in terms of massage work, what would I recommend it for? Individuals who are athletes who need to enhance recovery and just getting a lot of repetitive pumping of the tissue. Ultimately, nothing beats massage therapy, but again, I'm always looking for supplemental products and things that people can do with a just set it and forget it kind of mode. And this is definitely what I would use for the legs. If you have venous return problems and so forth, circulation issues, of course, this would be an option. Always talk with your healthcare provider before doing that, though, so you can get recommendations on intensity and so forth before you just go ahead and do that. So I do recommend that. But great little unit. I'm going to give it an A+ for simplicity, and I would recommend it. So if you want to get access to one of these, it's the Bob and Brad version of that. These guys are two couple of well-known physical therapists on YouTube, but I'll drop the link below so you know where you can get access to it. Take a look at all the additional specs yourself. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them below. Make sure you give me a thumbs up on this video, and I'll do a lot more product reviews in the future. And subscribe to the channel so you get notified of them. Sam Visnick here. Thanks for watching.